Welcome, brothers. I'm JK Emezi, head coach at the Porn-Reboot system and founder of Elevated Recovery. Today we're going to be talking about how to end your erectile dysfunction for good. Now, before we get into it, I want to take a brief moment to talk about porn-induced erectile dysfunction. Now, porn-induced erectile dysfunction occurs when you have viewed pornography compulsively and masturbated to it for so long that you are unable to have a natural, normal erection without the stimuli from pornography, which means that if you're having sex, you need to fantasize about pornography. You need to be watching pornography while you're engaging in the act, or maybe to get yourself ready, you need to watch a little bit of pornography so that you can get an erection. So there's a very simple test to find out if you have PIED or not, which is porn-induced erectile dysfunction. Simply masturbate with and without pornography. If without pornography you are unable to have an erection, but with pornography you're able to have and maintain one, chances are that you might have porn-induced erectile dysfunction. Now, I have a separate video for that, and that's a totally different issue. The reason why I'm talking about erectile dysfunction today is because come November, I would have been helping men end the out-of-control behavior with porn and masturbation for 10 years. I'm not very good at many things, but I'm pretty damn good at this, and it's the one thing I'll toot my horn about. And one thing that I have noticed over the years is that a lot of men who struggle with porn-induced erectile dysfunction hold this hope that the moment they rewire their brain, their porn-induced erectile dysfunction is going to disappear. Unfortunately, sometimes it is merely masking another issue, which is just regular old erectile dysfunction. So one of the things we do in the Porn-Reboot system is that we make sure that not only are you rewiring your brain to end your behavior with pornography and not deal with porn-induced erectile dysfunction, but that you also do not fall a victim of erectile dysfunction. It's very disheartening to spend many years rewiring your brain, investing the time, the money, the emotion into ending this behavior, the accountability relationships, only to find like, man, I beat this and now I'm like 34 years old or 35 years old or 42 years old or whatever, and I'm now dealing with erectile dysfunction. So that sucks. And I've seen a lot of men go through that in my 10 years helping men end the out-of-control behavior. So let's get started, all right? Today I'm going to talk about a few of the causes of erectile dysfunction. I'm going to briefly mention a few things that you can do to kind of mitigate the risk. And in a couple of other videos, I think I'll make it a series. I'll really dive into some actionable steps that you can take to end this. Now, I'll be honest with you, I could do it all over one video, but it'll be like 30 minutes long, and I'm not trying to shoot a course here. So let's start with erections. The first thing to know is that there are 5 requirements for you to have healthy erections. The first is healthy testosterone levels. Now, there's so many men who come into the Porn-Reboot system thinking that they are struggling with an out-of-control behavior with pornography, when in reality, they just have low testosterone levels. Because I want you guys to understand something. There are a lot of guys who do nofap and semen retention because of all the symptoms they're experiencing. The symptoms of porn addiction and masturbation addiction, when you do it compulsively, are very similar to the symptoms of low testosterone levels. So one of the first things we do is we try to make sure that brothers get a testosterone test or a hormone panel. You want to look at your free testosterone, your total testosterone, you want to look at your estrogen, and a few other important markers to determine that you are at least baseline or above baseline testosterone levels for your age. So that's the first requirement. The second thing is having a strong PC muscle or a strong pelvic floor. So the PC muscle is the muscle between your legs, that's between your anus and your scrotum. And it is involved in ejaculation, it's involved when you're urinating, using the bathroom. It's a very important muscle. It also has quite a bit to do with orgasm for men and women. The important thing about the PC muscle is that men who masturbate a lot and men who view pornography compulsively tend to either have a weak PC muscle, a weak pelvic floor, or they have an imbalance of the pelvic floor. And this is because you spent so many years masturbating, edging, and viewing pornography in a way that is very unnatural for our body. So the way that you edge, the way that you clench that muscle isn't natural. So you tend to overdevelop some muscles and underdevelop others. Because chances are, let's admit it, you're probably viewing pornography and masturbating much more than you're actually having sex in most cases. So this imbalance has to be fixed. If it isn't fixed, you have higher chances for struggling with erectile dysfunction. Thankfully, there are ways to fix that. The third thing is really being in the right mental state. A lot of guys, they fall for this belief that, hey, guys are always ready for sex. And just because I'm walking around horny and checking out women and able to watch pornography whenever I want to, when it's time to have sex, I'm going to be in the right mindset. Understand that when you view pornography, you're usually doing so in order to medicate some emotion or the other. That means you could be stressed, you could be happy, you could be angry, you could be lonely, you could be tired, whatever that emotion is, you can just watch pornography. There is no interaction. It doesn't really matter your mental state. You can always watch porn and masturbate. However, when it comes to having sex, when there is intimacy involved, even if there's intimacy when there's another person, it's a whole different ballgame, because it's very difficult to do so when you're very stressed, or when you're nervous, or when you're frustrated, because there's an interaction between you and this person that you don't have with pornography. So the third thing is being in the right mental state. Nitric oxide production. Now, nitric oxide is very important because it helps in the relaxation of a soft penile tissue. And without going too much into the science of it, your penis needs to have adequate blood flow in order for you to have an erection. And nitric oxide is what relaxes the tissue in order for there to be adequate blood flow. Now, if you do not have enough nitric oxide, then of course you're not going to relax enough, or rather your penis is not going to relax enough for you to get that blood flow. So that is the fourth thing. The fifth thing is adequate blood flow. You need to have decent circulation in order to channel enough blood to your penis, that area, in order for you to have an erection. And if you just have poor circulation, it's actually going to be challenging for you to have and maintain an erection. Now, a lot of guys don't know these things, and when I learned all of that, quite honestly, they were a surprise to me. But these are important things to know if you're taking your reboot seriously. You're trying to regain the things that you lost in the past to pornography, erections being one of them, to be honest. So this leads to a very important thing about erections that you need to know. Erections, contrary to popular opinion, when you view pornography, you usually do it when maybe you're stressed out or angry or lonely or dealing with some unresolved issue, some strong emotion. We don't really associate masturbation and pornography with relaxation, right? Unless you're like one of those guys who needs it to go to sleep. But even that is connected to stress, because if you don't masturbate to go to sleep, you start getting worried, start having insomnia, and so on and so forth. An erection is a relaxation response in the body, which simply means that in order for you to have an erection, your nervous system must be in a state of relaxation. And a lot of people do not realize this. They have this belief that it doesn't matter what their mental state is, they're going to be able to have an erection. Again, it's one thing to have an erection because you're thinking about pornography and you're fantasizing. It's a completely different thing when there's a person in front of you and you are about to have sex. Now, I know some of you out there probably take that little yellow pill or the blue pill. If you know, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about. And you might think that, hey, this solves the problem. If I have an erection problem, I just pop the pill and I'm good. It's not quite how it works. First of all, these pills are not always going to work. It simply means that you're going to have to increase the dosage in order to get the response that you received the first time. The second thing is these are not permanent fixes, and they will not fix all the issues. There are a couple of things, such as if you're not in the right mindset to have an erection, the pill is not going to work for you. If you have chronically low testosterone levels, the pill is not going to be effective for you. If you have weak or imbalanced PC muscles, the pill is not going to work for you unless you keep increasing your dosage. And that's not a healthy way to go about this. So I just wanted to go ahead and get the whole, I could take a pill and fix this out of the way. It is not a long-term solution. Let's talk a little bit about the mental causes of erectile dysfunction. I think you'll find this helpful. One of the mental causes is the activation of our body's fight or flight response. So you guys might be familiar with that. It's basically a response that we evolved to have in order for us to survive. Back in the day, if we were being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, or if you saw something that was going to eat you, or you were in danger, then this kicked in your nervous system and you knew whether to defend yourself or whether to run away. But the interesting thing to note is that your body will always prioritize your survival over sex. So what does this mean? This means that if for any reason, while you're having sex or while you're about to have sex, you trigger your fight or flight response, which means you get freaked out over like, oh my God, like the last time I tried to have sex, I couldn't have a boner because I have PIED, I needed to watch porn, this girl is so hot, this is whatever you're freaking out about. If it triggers your fight or flight response, then your body is going to prioritize that and you're not going to have an erection. So that's very important to understand if you're one of those guys who worries a lot and worries to the point that he freaks out, starts releasing adrenaline, and then is not able to have an erection. The second mental cause is not being sexually aroused. And I know this might sound strange, but there are a lot of brothers who their education, entire sexual education and experience is just based on pornography, on chat sites, on cams, and all this sort of things. And you've never actually had a lot of experiences with women. When you are faced with a real life woman, you realize that she's not airbrushed like the people you watch in pornography. She's not perfect. Her vagina isn't perfect. Her body isn't perfect. She's got blemishes. There are going to be smells. There are going to be sensations. There are going to be feelings that you just don't experience when you view pornography or when you view a campsite or you view somebody that's filtered. Even the videos have filters these days. And so it's very challenging to get aroused sometimes, and that can get you stuck in your head. And you might not know why. You're like, well, why am I not getting aroused? Is it something? It's often you. Your brain is still addicted to pornography, and you need to rewire it. One of the suggestions that I give to brothers who struggle with this is to actually learn how to focus on a certain part of a woman. It could be a personality trait, but more often than not, physical part of the woman that you find particularly arousing, right? Well, maybe it's her breasts, maybe it's her face, maybe it's the sound she makes, something like that. Focus on that in order to learn how to get aroused, the one thing that got you aroused, because a lot of men will be in a situation with a woman, they're about to have sex, and once she takes her clothes off, they zoom out the same way they would with pornography because they want to mentally consume all these things. But the reality is when you take all of those things that make up that woman and put it together, it doesn't really make a porn star. So the thing that aroused you when you first started having a conversation, you don't see it anymore because you're trying to look at her as a whole. The trick is to, again, zoom in on the thing, the aspect of her, physical or otherwise, that got you aroused in the first place. And then as you go through the process, you can slowly zoom out. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, ask me more in the comment section below. The third mental cause is a lack of presence. And this typically happens if you're in your head. You're not there in the moment. You're worrying about so many things. You're worrying about your lack of experience. You're worried about the size of your dick. You're worried about what position she'll like. You're worried about whether you're hurting her. You're worried about whether you're going fast enough. You're worried about your body. You're worried about so many things. You're like, oh, will my PIED kick in? You're so concerned about these things that you're no longer in the moment. And the minute you step out of that present moment, especially if you have problems with porn-induced erectile dysfunction, then you are risking your opportunity to actually have an erection. So there are a lot more mental causes. I'll be sharing them on another video. Let's talk a little bit about some of the physical causes of erectile dysfunction. One of the most prevalent causes of erectile dysfunction these days physically is low testosterone levels. There's so many men who for some reason you think you have a high sex drive, right? But you don't. You're just a guy who's addicted to pornography. Being aroused by pornography, seeing women everywhere, and having a boner because of your fantasies does not mean that you have a high sex drive. And that also does not necessarily mean that you have high testosterone levels. And I think this is one of the reasons, in my experience, why a lot of men just don't want to get their testosterone levels checked. It is critical that you get your T levels checked multiple times a year, at least 2 to 3 times, seriously, because If you have low testosterone levels, it is going to affect your ability to have an erection, and you will go through needless pain, heartbreak, frustration, and periods of low self-esteem, even depression, because you refuse to make the connection between low testosterone levels and your erectile dysfunction. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how jacked you are. I don't care. It's so important to actually go and get the blood work done and actually see where you're at. All right. So please take it seriously. Get your testosterone levels checked out. Go get a hormone panel. The second physical reason I also mentioned earlier is having a weak pelvic floor. Again, this is caused by masturbating compulsively in a way that is not natural. Again, if you're opening several tabs, if you're hopping from genre to genre, if you're edging and you're like, no, I'm not going to come to this scene. I'm going to wait for another scene, the perfect scene, and then I'm going to come to that. Well, guess what? Each time you are flexing, clenching that PC muscle, but your PC muscle is a little bit complex, all right? It's made up of more than one muscle, and if my memory serves me correct, there's the ischiocavernosus muscle and there's the bulbocavernosus muscle. And each of them is responsible for ejaculation. They're responsible for your orgasms. In fact, fun fact, if you highly develop these muscles, you develop the ability to have multiple orgasms. You also develop the ability to come on demand. You guys watch pornography. Y'all may not know that a lot of porn stars, one of the requirements is if the director says, all right, it's time for the cum shot or whatever they call it these days, he has to be able to come on demand. That's one of the things about being a porn star. So they need to have a highly developed pelvic floor. And if you've been compulsively viewing pornography and you've been doing it much more than you've been having sex, then brother, you probably have a pelvic floor imbalance. And one of the things that can help you with this is Kegel exercises. Maybe it's pronounced Kegels, I don't know. That's one of the things that can actually help you with that. Look it up, Kegels. The next physical cause of erectile dysfunction is actually poor cardiovascular health. Now here's the crazy thing. You know, just as your heart has arteries, your penis also has a couple of arteries. The more important one is called the penile artery. Now, just as there can be a buildup of plaque in the arteries of your heart, there can also be a buildup of plaque in the artery of your penis. So literally your penis can have a heart attack, a heart attack of the penis if you have poor cardio and if you have a poor diet. You eat junk food a lot, you smoke a lot, you have a sedentary lifestyle, you drink a lot of alcohol. If that is your lifestyle, then your penis is going to be unhealthy and your heart also probably is unhealthy. So gentlemen, it's so important for you to exercise, to have a great diet, and to be mindful of the substances you put into your body, and all these things, kind of try and do them in moderation and live, for the most part, a healthy life. So there you have it, brothers. A couple of the main causes of erectile dysfunction. I didn't give too many suggestions on what you can do about them, but I'll be doing that in another video later on this week. In the meantime, if you have any questions about this, what were you surprised about? Because over the years, as I learned more and more about erectile dysfunction, I was just shocked at all the different things that could lead to erectile dysfunction. So I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. Have a great day. Whenever you're ready, here are 4 ways that Porn Reboot can help you out for free. The first way is to subscribe to our channel and make sure you click on the notification bell to get a new video every other day. The second way is to get a copy of the free book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men. You'll learn about my personal struggle and the lessons I've learned over a decade, as well as strategies for putting together your porn reboot plan and ending your compulsive behavior with pornography or masturbation. So click on the link in the description below this video. The third way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, guys who work in sales, consulting, or high-level jobs, men who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's also a link to join in the description below this video. And finally, if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, you want to be an authentic man and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, click on the link in the description below this video that says free coaching call, or visit elevatedrecovery.org and click on the link which says book a call.